One of these days, I'm thinking about just putting you like up there and leaving you.
Yeah, that's fine. Go ahead.
NeeAnn's in our waiting room, and she's like, "We've had a problem here. Here, I'm just going to pull you in and see if we can figure it out." Can you hear now?
Hear me?
No,
Oh, we
okay,
can hear
yes.
Okay.
All
My
right.
microphone was turned off. Sorry.
You and Michael. Good
Yeah.
night.
I
with
didn't
the
know
turning.
you could do that.
I'm gonna have to teach you guys or get you a microphone that doesn't have a button on it. That's what I need to do.
Oh my goodness.
Mine doesn't have a button on it. Good morning, NeeAnn. How are you?
I'm good. How are y'all?
Pretty good. Good
Great.
morning, Michael. You wanted to talk about something already this morning.
Yeah,
You were like,
normally I do like a just a little economic update or little thing like that. This morning I want to do a little public service announcement with fluoride, and I have my special fluoride shirt on that I've had for 15 years now, and I've gotten a lot of flack in the past when I go to the store or I'm at my kid's soccer game. People look at me like, "What's going on?" Anyway, this says there's poison in the tap water, and I want to say, earlier this year, the NIH, they actually had to admit that fluoride is causing some issues with kids. Well, let's go back. This is only going to take a couple minutes. Let's go back to one of the first real major deals that pointed towards this. This is a Harvard partner. They took this. This is one of their partners over in China. Well, they had like 26 different studies. Yeah, they had like 26 different studies, and in this, they were talking this back in 2012. So this July 2012, they're talking about the impact of the neurological impact of fluoride on kids. Well, when you go down here, this is through all these. They showed that just the average IQ loss was 7 points or 15, a standard deviation of 15. That was back then. And they did thousands. They had thousands and thousands and thousands of kids. That was back in 2012. Mm-hmm. So the real issue with fluoride is. Here's where people get off. So you think about your toothpaste, you think about going to the dentist, and the dentist has got fluoride. He's putting, fluoride on your teeth. Well, that's like calcium fluoride. Okay, that's not what they're putting in the drinking water, which is hydrofluorosilicic acid. That's what they're at, and that's the byproduct when they are making fertilizer. And there's a whole deal around that. You can look that up yourself, but. Hydrofluorosilicic acid is highly, highly, highly toxic, highly dangerous, has all kinds of problems. That's what they're putting in your water. They're not putting calcium fluoride or sodium fluoride or like the actual mineral element compound that's made in nature that is actually, has beneficial properties for you. They're putting in hydrofluorosilicic acid. And the one thing I want to show you is like here in the periodic table. So fluoride or fluorine is part of the halogen group, which is over here on this side, this little green set. Mm-hmm. So as you go down, there's fluorine, chlorine, bromine, iodine, which we know iodine is an essential element for your body. You have to have iodine for your hypothalamus and, several things in your body have to have iodine. Well, we know in the past, they've taken, rewind back when nutrition wasn't well known in this country. They added iodine literally to bread and wherever they could because they knew how deficient people were.
Salt.
So just through time, what they've done is they've eliminated the iodine and everything, and they put in bromine, which is nowhere near. Bromine is not anywhere near as good for you as iodine. Iodine's literally the best. But as you go backwards, back up this chart, it's more deadly. So iodine is good. Bromine is, chlorine is horrible. Chlorine is horrible for you. Fluorine is horrible for you. And the issue with that is when you look at the halogen group here, the same cells in your body that take up iodine, they also take up bromine, they take up chlorine, so it's a substitution. So if you're not getting your iodine, the fluorine's going to go in there. If you're not getting your iodine, the chlorine's going to go in there, or the bromine. So it's just one of those deals where it's been touted as one thing, but it's completely opposite. It does not help you. The fluoride in your tap water is a poison without a shadow of a doubt.
So do you want to hear?
Have you read the stories of how that got started?
Yeah, I mean it's
because it was a byproduct. So it's a byproduct of the production of fertilizer. Thank you.
And aluminum. It comes out of an aluminum process also.
Right. And so the EPA determined that was a toxic chemical and could not be disposed of in a natural, like in dumps or anything like that. So it was costing these corporations millions of dollars to get rid of this toxic waste. And they were like, you know what? We just saw a study. I don't even know if they produced a study or where the study came from. That fluoride's good for you and it builds your teeth and bones. So let's sell this toxic waste to the cities so that they can put it in their water. And then we don't have to pay the toxic hazard waste prices to get rid of it.
I'm laughing not because it's funny. I'm laughing because honestly, nobody can make this crap up. I mean, so it's like our government has never been for us, the people. It's always been for big government and cronies. FDA. But I got to tell you a funny story. So for years, I'm going to say over a decade in my house, I have been complaining about fluoride. And we don't have, we have well water now, so we don't worry about it. But I've been complaining about it. And I've never used fluoride. I mean, in the last 15 years, I don't use fluoride toothpaste. I use a natural toothpaste. We don't have any fluoride in our water or anything. Well, but I've always said, guys, let me get you some non-fluoride toothpaste. Let me, and I've always pushed my little rhetoric about no fluoride. Well, it was a couple or 3 weeks ago, and my husband came up to me and he goes, well, you'll feel good today. And I said, why? And he goes, well, you've been vilified in your fluoride ranch. Because apparently this just all hit the news cycle, several weeks ago, and it popped up on one of the things that he reads. And I thought, oh my gosh, that's the funniest thing ever. I'm like, okay, so when have I not been right?
Right. Exactly. Why wouldn't they just listen to us, Jenny? And so I have refused.
Because we're not experts.
I know. And I have refused to allow the dentist to put fluoride on my children's teeth for almost 20 years now. So,
yeah. I mean, yeah. So many not good things. So I wanted to, while we were on with you this morning, NeeAnn, because I think you've already seen this. What do you have down there to show us now, Michael, before I move on?
No, that was it. I need to take that off.
All right. Okay. So I want to share my screen with you because this is part of the ongoing problem that we're having that we brought NeeAnn to talk about today. So this was an article that we just got up, I think, yesterday. And did you know the largest carbon capture plant in the U.S. opened in Oklahoma August 13th?
I didn't even know anything about that.
So my second part of the article is going to be me talking to these. Well, I'm going to put the interviews that I've been doing with people about this. And when I say this is bad, I mean, I know it sounds like rhetoric, but it's so bad because what NeeAnn's seeing, what Sandra Trawick has been talking about, all of these people, it's all balled up into this one thing. And the ball is like snowballing. It's going down the hill and it's getting bigger and bigger and bigger. And the couple of things that I wanted to point out about this before we go into the solar issue today. I have been in politics in Oklahoma for just about 15 years. And because of the fact that I started out talking about education in Oklahoma, which nobody was doing, I had the opportunity to go all over the states talking to different groups, usually Republican groups, but groups all over the state. So I've been all over the state. So you're going to be hard pressed to find that I don't know at least somebody in each of the 77 counties in Oklahoma. I mean, it's just the way it's been. So I have a number of them that I know in Osage County. I have lots of friends in Osage County, and those friends are also very active. They're not just armchair sitters. They're out knocking doors for candidates. They're out, in their communities doing things. So when I called my friend Kathy Miller, after I found out about this, who lives in Osage County, and I said, Kathy, are you aware that you have a CO2 pipeline running through the northwestern part of your county? And she goes, what?
They don't know.
Nobody that I've been able to talk to, and I've had numerous conversations, knows anything about this. What's wrong with that? Somebody's hiding it. So if you look at and I want people to go to the website and read this article, but I think honestly we're going to have a show on it. But this is a video that I embedded inside. I took a screen record of it. This is from LinkedIn. This is from Heimdall. Heimdall is a out of the blue company that just appeared. It's run by a 30-something guy who has a very Norwegian accent. And he talks about this Heimdall. Heimdall is Norwegian. Heimdall is the Norwegian god who takes care of the Bifrost. Remember, the Bifrost runs between the worlds, and Heimdall is the god or the whatever entity that guards the Bifrost. So this is where that term comes from. So Heimdall is the carbon capture company, but then there's another company involved called Capture Point, and it's all sitting in an area just outside Shidler, Oklahoma. And when you look at the map, it's very interesting because here's Capture Point, here's Kaw Lake, here's Shidler. Wow. Here's where the pipeline runs. So when you go back and listen to what Governor Stitt says, and I can't play it on this because it's a really bad video. The video on the Heimdall LinkedIn page was bad too. It was just bad. So mine is just terrible. But when you go and listen to it, Governor Stitt sounds like, did anybody see The Music Man? Okay. Neither one of you saw The Music Man?
Back in the day, like the old one?
Yeah, that it was a musical, and the Music Man came in. He was trying to sell bands, and he was a huckster. He was a shyster. But he got embedded in the community, and everybody grew to love him, and he changed. That's the way the stories go. But Governor Stitt right here sounds like, I don't know if it's not really a huckster. He sounds like somebody, he's so excited about this that he claps numerous times and bangs the desk. He's so excited about this. And I'm just thinking, but then look, Stephanie, what about notifying the community? Because here's the problem with this. If that carbon dioxide pipeline ruptures anywhere, people will die.
Oh, yeah.
People will die. I mean, it's happened before. It's happened before. It nearly killed people in Satartia, Mississippi, just last year, a pipeline rupture. They tend to rupture. They're under very high pressure. And we have a governor who cares more about opening the state for business than what. And I can't even tell you how bad this is. I can't even tell you how bad this is. I mean, it's bad, so bad that I think by the time I get this whole story finished, if people don't really read that, I mean, the people who are interested, because the people who aren't interested aren't going to read it anyway. But I think once the people really know what's going on and how bad this is, I think we'll finally have people standing up and going, red state, schmed state, doesn't matter. If we don't do something, we're all in deep, deep trouble, because this is bad juju. I mean, NeeAnn, and what you're facing out in Garfield County.
It's all the same agenda. It's all linked together.
But you're not stopping. You're not going to let them do it.
But we were lucky that we found out that it was happening, because they tried to come in without the community knowing anything whatsoever. What happened to Michael?
What happened to your what? Oh, Michael had to get off. He had a call he had to take.
Okay.
But you scared him off, NeeAnn.
That wouldn't surprise me.
But you know what you have to do? I think we've got a nice audience. So what we need to do is I need you to kind of back up and talk about what happened. But don't forget, we've talked about this before. Tell everybody how you found out this was happening and what they need to do to stay informed.
Yes. So it's been 20 months, right? February of 2023 is when we started talking out about the solar complex coming from Garfield County. And this will be, I think, one of the biggest in the state so far. It's going to be, I think we're kind of their testing ground. They might be in a couple other counties, but people didn't either know or fight them. But the only way we found out about it is we have partial zoning in our county. And we're going to talk about zoning here.
Yeah, we do need to talk about that too.
We have partial zoning. We have a Metropolitan Area Planning Commission set up, and it's a joint agreement between the biggest city and the county, which is Enid and the county, which zones a 3-mile zone band from the city limits into the county. So that's the only county zoning we have right now, is that 3-mile band. Well, within that 3-mile band, they want to put part of this solar complex. So they had to put notices. They didn't do it the proper legal way.
No.
The way that they did it, they had to put notices on the roadway, on the corners.
Yeah, right.
So you would have to stop and see, what is that new sign on the road? Because I haven't seen that before. Well, somebody did stop and they read it. And then they reached out to their neighbors and they said, hey, did you see this? It's coming up at the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission meeting on Monday night. Are you going? And they actually got several people to go and speak. Well, a friend of mine sent me the link to the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission and said, did you see this? They're wanting to do a 5,000 acre solar complex. And so I watched.
Say that one more time. How many acres?
5,000 is what their original proposal was. So I watched the video. I reached out to to Lee Smith because she spoke out. So I reached out to her. I said, hey, I am interested in helping fight this. Let me know if there's anything I can do to help you. So then we just started researching and gathering information and trying to educate people on the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, because their permit was denied. The Planning Commission said your permit is incomplete and it is deceptive and you can't answer our questions. So you need to redo that and come back.
Okay, so let's stop just 1 second there. That's what we're finding with all of these things. That's
Yes.
what we're finding with wind turbines. That's what we're finding with so many of these things. Am I wrong?
No, they are completely deceptive.
Yeah. So but the only problem is if the planning commission or whoever it is, because with carbon capture, gosh, I just can't even go into it, but you can't even find anybody who's in charge of it.
No,
so
there's no regulation on solar. The only reason there was anything for this one was because we have the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission. If we didn't have that, they would have just started and we would have never known.
Yeah.
So
yeah,
because
sorry, I got you off there. Keep going.
Yeah. Oh no, you're good. Because that was denied, they were going to have to come back, right? Well, They never came back. They still haven't come back, but they've started construction. And so, so because of that, we talked to all of our local officials. We talked to all of our state representatives, Senate, House. We talked to every regulatory agency, DEQ, Corporation Commission, EPA, USDA. We've talked to everybody. Nobody has regulatory authority over these things in the state of Oklahoma.
Okay, so let me just break in and tell you something that I've found out. So initially, do you guys remember when the EPA was trying to regulate the water in our puddles and then telling us that our kids couldn't, drive on our farms? Remember all of that? And so then there was this huge pushback against the EPA. Well, we don't want the EPA. We don't want the EPA. We want to get them out. Well, obviously, we don't want them doing what they're doing.
Right.
But what's happened is our governor has taken that sentiment, that public sentiment, from their over-regulating, and he's flipped it on its head and said, well, because these people over-regulate, we can't get anything in here in Oklahoma that's going to actually create businesses and do what we, and be in, what does he call it?
Top 10 state.
Top 10 state. We can't be a top 10. Thank you for that. We can't be a top 10 state, without that. So what they're doing through legislation, and our new writer, Shane, and I have found the legislation, the several ones of them. And what they're doing is they're creating laws. Now get this, this will make you and Michael laugh so loudly. They're creating laws based on the 10th Amendment that say that Oklahoma should have regulatory power over these things. Okay, well, first of all, if you're basing them on the 10th Amendment, why don't you base on the 10th Amendment the fact that we don't want to take federal dollars?
Right, subsidies, yeah. Yep.
Okay, so they'll only use it when it works for them, when it's expedient for them, right? So the whole idea is to get them away from EPA so they can be regulated here, so we can bring all of these people in from outside the state to come in to do business without regulation, slowing them down, because that's what they said during the interim study. Remember the other day?
Oh, yeah.
We don't want to be, we need to go. We don't need to be slowed down. Now, whether it's by choice or whether it's just because government sucks, they've created no regulatory spaces in that vacuum of EPA. So while they'll say DEQ is supposed to be the authority over regulation, DEQ, there's nothing out there that says that.
Exactly. There's nothing written.
Correct. So basically right now we're living in an era of zero regulation when anybody can do anything they want. And I've got to explain one other thing. So if and this will go into zoning, so let's pick that up really fast and we'll go back. Inside a county, the county commissioners have jurisdiction over any land that is not incorporated by a city.
Right.
Inside the city, the cities make their own laws and regulations from zoning to whatever, so long as they match the states.
Yeah.
That's another one that we need to figure out a way around.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's not out in the unincorporated areas, which aren't incorporated by a city, the county commissioners have jurisdiction there. Most people who live in unincorporated areas live there literally by their purposefully, so they don't have to be regulated on what they do. This is bad in the sense that a lot of marijuana farms come in there because the Chinese know that they're not going to get regulated, especially under the original OMMA. And sometimes it can really be a problem. You've got somebody who puts all their junk cars there, can start a fire, that kind of thing. But for the most part, people just want to live and not be bothered. But the problem is when you have no regulations, anything can happen. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem. And that's what we're finding out with all this green crap. Yes. Is without any of these regulations, without any zoning, without anything, you're not hampering farmers so much as you're allowing all of these individual private organizations who have no taxpayer, they don't answer to taxpayers at all.
Yep. Yep.
They come in and can do whatever they want. So there you go. Now,
yes. So our state is inviting them in, knowing that we don't have any protections for the citizens, and then doing nothing to protect the citizens.
Bingo.
Yes. Yep. Our state leadership. Yes. And so that's where we're at. So because we do have that 3 mile band of zoning that protects those 3 miles, we have hired an attorney to file suit against the county commissioners for not enforcing that zoning, and NextEra for starting construction without any permits. So because our local officials and our state officials would not help us, we banded together, and several of our citizens, plaintiffs, have filed a lawsuit to try to force the zoning issue within that 3 mile band, because nobody was enforcing that without us having to file a lawsuit.
So your elected officials, yes, who are supposed to be there protecting your liberty,
right,
have absconded their duty.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you're having to take money out of your pockets,
yes,
to sue them to do their jobs.
Yes. Yes. So we are asking
them to Oklahoma, the reddest state in the union.
Right. Yes. And it infuriates me that that private citizens have to band together and spend thousands and thousands of dollars to force somebody to do something that they have taken an oath to do. And that there are statutes that say they must do it. And so here we are. So issue of zoning. So, and we'll see how that plays out. We're having a fundraiser on Saturday night. We've got some really great options. Abby, I can see you in the mirror over here. Go over there. Sorry, my daughter.
That's okay.
My daughter's walking through the living room. We're having a fundraiser coming up, and we have some really great auction items. Trent Luce is coming from Nebraska. I don't know if
you give me it's Saturday.
Yes, the 26th,
October 26th
from 5 to 8.
Where?
It's at the Redeemer Lutheran Church in Enid. And we're going to have a great time, hopefully raise a lot of money so that
What time?
5 to 8. This is a David versus Goliath kind of fight. They have a lot of, NextEra has a lot of money. And we are relying on God to provide the stones. So we are raising as much money as we can to keep this fight going. This will be a landmark suit in Oklahoma. This is the first suit to try to stop a solar complex in the state of Oklahoma. So we'll see what happens. But
hold on one second.
Yes.
Stephanie is asking you, if we can't come, are you taking donations?
Of course. So we have a website. It's Stop Skeleton.
Hold on. Stop
Skeleton Creek Solar.org. So Skeleton Creek is the creek that runs through there. Stop Skeleton Creek Solar.org. And we have a Facebook page, No Solar in Garfield County. So our friends in Craig County.
Thank you, Michael.
Yay. Our friends in Craig County actually were able to get zoning on their ballot for November. And of course, they're getting a lot of pushback from the green companies. Well, here's what we have discovered in Garfield County. Most of the counties in Oklahoma have no zoning. And like you were saying, when we're talking no zoning outside of the incorporated, the unincorporated is the Wild West. I'm talking they come out here, they bulldoze their way into our communities. They do what they want. They don't ask permission. They don't inform anybody, and they just do, right? And nobody's stopping them. The governor has no heartache about it, apparently. DEQ, every time something happens out here, we are on the phone with the regulatory agencies going, hey, are they allowed to do this? Do you know that they're doing this? Anyway, so our friends in Craig County have it on the ballot, right? And they're getting lots of pushback. Well, here's what people need to know. Right now, if you live in the unincorporated area, you have absolutely no protection. But if you are in the ag industry, agriculture is not regulated, right? They cannot stop you from doing ag in an unincorporated because ag is protected. And our friends in Craig County actually got a letter from the Attorney General stating that you cannot zone against ag. Ag is protected in Oklahoma. So what our friends in the county need to know is that when we're talking about zoning the county, this zoning does not prohibit ag. It only prohibits non-ag related activities. So the only thing, so I'll read you what part of Craig County says. So zoning district section 100A1 agriculture districts, right? The intent of this district is to protect the unincorporated rural areas from the impacts of development of potential large-scale conditional uses. Further, the intent is to provide protection for agricultural uses in addition to protection provided by the state statutes. So permitted uses in A1 or Agriculture 1 zone land, there's no zoning permits required. You don't have to ask permission. All existing and new uses are not regulated and shall be allowed, except for conditional uses listed within this district. So they list those as industrial scale wind, industrial scale battery energy storage systems, industrial scale solar energy, and private, which is non-utility renewable energy transmission lines. And they should add, if they're going to force them to name these things by name, they should add carbon capture pipeline.
They have to, because if you look at I don't have it up anymore, but if you go to the article on the website and you look at it, I've got to show it because the impact just doesn't, me explaining it doesn't do it justice. You really have to see the picture because the picture is so scary. Okay.
And so you can still build a barn. You can still toil the sand, the soil. You can still raise cattle. You do not have to ask permission if it is ag related. It is the industrial uses that will have to get permission if we are able to zone our counties. because the state is doing absolutely nothing to protect us in the unincorporated areas of our state, the only way for this protection to come in is for each county to decide for itself what kind of zoning they want.
So this is the map of the CO2 pipelines that they want to put in Oklahoma. This is the one they already have.
Wow.
This is what they want.
And
sorry, this is the one they already have. Right.
Yeah,
here.
I was gonna say it's a little bit to the right. Is that the same map? Did you see the map that Robert F. Kennedy Jr. shared?
No, and I've got to put that. That's an excellent point, because I've got to put that video up. We absolutely have to get that video up, because it is such a good video. And you know what I was thinking this morning, because I don't know if you saw the show on Wednesday.
I did not have a chance to.
That's fine. Study. But what was so funny was, Michael, somebody said I looked like a liberal. Remember? Yeah. And then somebody said, "Oh no, it's becoming a roast of Jenni," which was kind of funny. But it hit me when I was thinking about coming on this morning and talking to you and talking about this. How weird is it? I would never have agreed with RFK on so many things.
Yeah.
And I was like, thinking to myself, well, I guess it can't be too bad to have, wind turbines, and, we're trying to get some, extra ways of creating. I wasn't seeing this issue, and it just, I just don't, it seems like the world is upside down. I mean, is it not?
I know, but I followed him for years. Like I said, I've been studying health and wellness and natural and, all that stuff for over 20 years now. So I followed him on the vaccine stuff for 20 years, and he has been absolutely on point with everything that he's studied through the FDA. And what he's saying about our food and everything else, on point. And so in that video, he said, we have to get Trump back to the White House, and he's going to bring me along, and we're going to stop these CO2 pipelines, because he sees the scam, and he's supposedly one of them. And, and these people that claim to be environmentalists and want to save our earth by capturing CO2, that's a complete lie. I would say I'm more of an environmentalist because I want to save our land from destruction. I don't want our farmland, our productive ranch land, being destroyed by these people because they want to capture carbon dioxide, which we need to live to begin with, and they want to cover our land with solar panels and destroy, farmland with turbines.
Okay, I want to show something here that is, I'm hoping that this will kind of put a little bit of a, just like Denise said, that this is all a scam. A whiff from blue-green algae likely responsible for Earth's oxygen. Okay, so I'll just explain this a little bit, because I don't want to get into a big discussion on it. Blue-green algae exists all over the planet, but one of the places that it's most, where there is most of it, is on the shelves in the ocean. There's a lot of blue-green algae. Blue-green algae is extremely important because of all of the living green items on the planet. Blue-green algae is one of the best converters of CO2 to oxygen of anything out there. I mean, literally pound for pound, because it's little bitty. I mean, they're microscopic, right? And they flow together in these great big mats. You can see them in this picture. There's a whole bunch of blue-green algae right here. If you really wanted to get carbon dioxide out of the air, now follow with me. If you really wanted to get carbon dioxide out of the air and you felt like that this was a big deal and this was causing global warming, would you use a bunch of machinery to suck it out of the air and concentrate it in a place where if the pipeline ruptured, it would kill everything around it? Is that environmental? Or is it more environmental to help propagate green algae all over the place, so that if you really believe that CO2 is a problem, blue-green algae could come and suck up the CO2 and create oxygen? Now, just if you have this, oh, well, but the green agenda if you have that, I want you to think commonsensically about what I just said. And I'll tell you this, how much money would contractors and people who do cement and people who make things and people who are lobbyists who want to go to our legislators, and would they make money by propagating blue-green algae, or would they make more money by instituting a big bunch of crap to kill us?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, Jenny, there's no money in blue-green algae.
Oh yeah,
there's a lot of money in the infrastructure of all these things, and then just the continuation, the process of processing it all. And that's another thing. Like, a lot of this stuff is on the fringe until big money, big private equity companies, big hedge funds, big corporations, once they realize how to monetize whatever it is, doesn't matter what it is, once they realize how to monetize it, then it's 100% all hands on deck, go, and you get exactly what's happening with the solar farms, the carbon capture, all of the stuff. Once big money figures out how to monetize it, it's a go, regardless of whatever, how good or bad it is.
Yeah, so the Inflation Reduction Act obviously made everything speed up, right? After that was done, and everything has gotten bigger and faster and more aggressive since then. But just the interim study the other day. So Stitt's interested in making this a top 10 state, right? But at the interim study for energy and economic growth the other day, the Petroleum Alliance got up and spoke, and they said that we've had a $550 million loss in Oklahoma because we have been switching to green. So how does that make us a top 10 state? And they said that they have a $55 billion economic impact, a $2.9 billion total in taxes paid, which is, and then $1.8 billion in gross production act, which goes to the entire state, right? The Petroleum Alliance stated that 1 in 10 jobs in Oklahoma is affiliated with petroleum. 1 in 10. So let's compare that to what
where
next
the 9 are, right?
Do what?
You know where the other 9 are, right?
Yeah.
Government.
Government. Oh, yeah, that's great. Right. Okay. So, but let's compare that to what NextEra said, because we want to be a top 10 state. And so we're going to bring in these huge corporations to destroy our land. And let's see what they're giving back to the state of Oklahoma. You want to follow the money. NextEra stated that they have $8 billion in assets. Well, good for them. That doesn't help with the state of Oklahoma, right? They have $8 billion in assets. They paid $21 million in ad valorem taxes last year, and they are in 17 counties. So if you divide 21 million by 17, that's like 1.23 million with an M per county in the year of 2023. So that's what they gave back to the state of Oklahoma. And they said that they employ 230 employees in the state. So let's compare that with what the Petroleum Alliance, they paid 1.8 billion with a B in gross production tax. NextEra paid 21 million in ad valorem. And I can tell you right now that those counties had to fight tooth and nail to get that out of them.
Yeah.
Because they have filed lawsuits to reduce the amount of tax that they've paid in Oklahoma. It went all the way to the Supreme Court of Oklahoma. And the Supreme Court decided with NextEra saying, oh, yeah, they can't assess that. They can only assess that. And then it reduced every penny that they pay. And so, and in the interim study in the afternoon, Representative Bowles was saying, well, yeah, we should look at that. Maybe we should look at reducing the ad valorem and maybe, charging them some production, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, if you reduce their ad valorem any more than it already is, they'll be paying nothing to the state of Oklahoma.
Okay, so but I want to point out to follow up on what you said. You said that NextEra said they had $18 million in.
No, so they paid 21 million in ad valorem tax.
Okay, no, but they in assets they had
8 billion. 8 billion.
8 billion
with a B.
Okay, so let's flesh that out a little bit. So where is the $8 billion coming from?
Right. And what assets?
Well, but people don't know. So tell people, where is the $8 billion coming from?
That's going to be, that's going to be the federal tax subsidies.
Yeah, everybody point to yourself.
We are paying. Yes. That we're paying our taxes. We didn't vote for the Inflation Reduction Act so that they could give all of our tax money to these big corporations to come in here and do something that we know doesn't work.
But that's what's happening.
If you want to look at making Oklahoma a top 10 state, then what Oklahoma needs to do is drill and provide jobs for the people of Oklahoma.
So
and gas provides uninterrupted electric production, which none of the other ones do.
There was a little teeny tiny, I may have saved it. There was a little teeny tiny soundbite that I pulled out of our show on Wednesday, and it was Senator David Bullard saying, for his entire tenure in the Senate, he has learned one thing, that there will not be one single subsidy that they will ever close the door on in the Oklahoma legislature.
Which is so ridiculous. So ridiculous. And you know what I call that? But I don't know if we can say it on your show.
Point to it.
It starts with a W. But...
Yeah. And NeeAnn, is it NextEra, like
NextEra, NEXTERA? It's next.
And the E, and the E is capitalized. It's one word, but I think the E is capitalized in the middle. So Next and Era.
When it looks like they've got two separate listings on the stock exchange, I just want to look at them here real quick.
Well, so BlackRock,
please do, and then tell people what you find.
Yeah, BlackRock and Vanguard are their biggest investors. All of the same, which is the same with Invenergy. Invenergy spoke also. Invenergy is also doing transmission lines and wind. They didn't say a whole lot in that study the other day, but they did say they employ 60 people in Oklahoma. So, they didn't talk about how much they paid in taxes, but they do employ 60 people. But the oil and gas, 1 in 10 people in Oklahoma. So I think maybe we should go with oil and gas and shut the other people out. That's just my opinion.
Well, but here's what they're going to say, NeeAnn, but that's not renewable.
I know.
So hold on a second. I was in I got my master's in 92. It's on the wall. 95. 95. I got my master's in 95. So I got my bachelor's in 92. And I remember when I was in class, in my environmental biology class, I was told that there was only 50 years of natural gas left.
Right.
And that we were all going to die because we would not have any natural gas or oil. And so think about how long ago that was and how long ago they were messaging this out, setting the stage for all of this. Now, what have they found out about oil and gas?
We have plenty of it.
And that in fact, natural gas is renewable. It renews itself because of the volcanic activity, far underground. All of the volcanic activity is producing this natural gas. So basically, this was all propaganda from the late 80s and the early 90s to set the stage. These people, we conservatives are always playing defense. Yes. We never play offense. The other side not only plays offense, but they have long range goals.
Vision. Yep.
So they knew that they were going to be, if they propagandist all in the late 80s and 90s, go, oh, but there's nothing left, and these are non-renewable sources. We'd all welcome with open arms all of these new things that we're going to, because they'd set them all up. The Vanguards and the BlackRocks, who own everything anyway, they'd set this all up as another way for them to make money. So I cry bull crap on all of this stuff.
Yeah, I know, even then. So my friend Denise just posted, thank you, Denise. She's reminding me. So the Oklahoma Supreme Court decision, NextEra sued the county of Kingfisher because Kingfisher was demanding that they pay their taxes, right? So the Oklahoma Supreme Court said that Oklahoma could not tax their production tax credits because those are intangibles, and the law in Oklahoma says that you can't tax intangibles. So everything that the company sees as an intangible asset cannot be taxed. And that's how they got all of their ad valorem taxes reduced significantly. Significantly. Wow. So and that's what said. Yeah. Yes. Yep. PTCs have tangible value and could be sold to finance construction. I know. Yeah. So that's the logic. Maybe that's another reason we need to look when we go vote at the Supreme Court justices when we go vote and decide maybe we shouldn't keep the ones that are on the ballot,
Well, and some of them that need to go aren't even on the ballot.
I know. But here's so before we lose this chain of thought, like you were speaking. So the other reason that our government in the state is inviting these in is so that we can increase our carbon credit. Yeah, I know. Oh my gosh, Stephanie, that's too funny. So STIT wants to increase our carbon credits so we can sell those back to the government, and it's kind of like these whole carbon credit things are just a bunch of BS money laundering to begin with. So again, my humble opinion, if anybody asked me and they want to put me in charge of it, is, hey, let's drill. Let's use our oil and gas. Let's put our people to work. Let's get our tax money from the oil and gas corporations because they're the ones lifting Oklahoma up. And let's just forget about the renewables and let everybody else do that. And we'll just stay in our little bubble and use our natural gas. How about that? That's just my humble opinion.
Yeah, but that's not trendy enough, NeeAnn.
I know.
Just not trendy enough.
I never have been trendy, Michael.
Well, just looking at them, 65% of their stock is owned by institutional investors. So, I mean, it's not like it's for the little guy, grassroots kind of company. And I like how they brand themselves pretty heavily on, renew, like when just looking at the news, reading their stuff, they're acting like they're the good guys. But it's just, man, you just don't know. I mean, people just, well, really what I want to have you go back to is how much did they actually put out into the public? Like we know, like with the carbon capture, with the carbon pipeline Jenni did, no one knew anything. Like how did you even find out this was happening in the first place with NextEra? I mean, was there like,
so they've been doing news articles about it since like maybe 2019, right? Because we've had, unfortunately, Garfield County is covered with wind turbines, and we've had them for years and years and years now. So then they started doing local articles like, oh, they're going to expand to solar and, and this stuff, blah, blah, blah. But just little articles maybe once a year saying that it's going to start in 2022 or 2023 or, but nobody up here reads the paper to begin with. But the way we found out this time that they were ready to build is they put a notice on a post on the corner. They had to put one on each corner surrounding the project. And one of our plaintiffs stopped and read the meeting notice. But again, that is only because the 3-mile zone in the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission has zoning. And has zoning regulations. That's the only reason. If it had not been for the Metropolitan Area Planning Commission, there would have been no notice.
No notice. Well, wouldn't that have just been so convenient? No notice at all.
Yeah. I mean, and they'll come in and talk to the county commissioners about road use agreements. And, because they're good neighbors, they want to be a good neighbor. And so they'll talk to the county commissioners about, and that's sarcasm, by the way, but about road use agreements, so that they want to get exclusions so that they can take heavy loads over our bridges. They want to be exempted from any load barriers or any load limits. Which I'm like, why would you do that? If they destroy a bridge, then they should be responsible for it. Why would you exempt them from that? What you need to do is say, no, look, we have load limits on these bridges in our county. If you go over them with a heavy load and destroy it, then you're paying for it. And so the county commissioners just roll over and pretty much give them whatever they want because they're going to rock the roads out here, right? That kind of stuff.
Yeah. Well, I guess I assume you guys have been attending some of the county commissioner meetings and things. Like, what is their response? Like when you actually confront them or bring up data or whatever, I mean, what do they actually do?
So if you talk to people across the state, it's the district attorneys who are the legal counsel for the county commissioners have been telling the county commissioners across the state, there's nothing you can do about that. There's nothing you can do. You can't do that. Like the first thing we did was go to our county commissioners and ask for a moratorium. We're like, we don't have zoning for solar. There's nothing written in our zoning. How about you pass a moratorium until we can fix that problem, right? Well, the district attorney told them they couldn't do that. And I said, well, show me where it says you can't do that. Because the state has passed moratoriums. You have the same authority in the county that the state has, in the state. So why can't you write a moratorium? Well, because the DA says we can't. Well, I'm like, well, let's try it. Let's try it. Make them prove that we can't, because there's nowhere that says that you can't. So Hughes County actually got a moratorium passed. As far as I know, it is still in effect, and nobody has said that they can't do it. So the problem is that when we ask our county commissioners in Garfield County, they go to the district attorney And the district attorney says you can't do that. Well, I want to see it in writing where it says you can't do that. Number one, we have never gotten that from our county commissioners. And number two, why don't we try and let's do that until somebody proves that we can't?
Yeah. What's the rush? Plus, if they already did it over in Hughes, I mean, obviously there is no issue that it can't be done. You just do it. And
I know.
You know what? I'd be interested to go pull the DA's ethics reports and see who's actually contributing to them.
Oh. Well, so the only problem we have in Garfield County is our district attorney retired, and Governor Stitt appointed an interim DA for our county, for our district.
So when all this was happening, the guy that was doing it is now retired, and the governor just appointed a new person.
Yeah, so the governor appointed a new DA for our district in January of 23. So right before all of this started.
Oh, right before. Wasn't that convenient?
Yes. So we have an appointed district attorney, which when I've spoken to my legal and knowledgeable friends in the state, say that we don't get a special election. We just have to put up with the appointed one until the term of the elected DA is up.
Wow.
So we don't even get to elect.
Wow. Well, isn't that just a convenient timeline right there?
Yeah. So, and what's interesting is our interim district attorney is the same district attorney that Governor Stitt was appointing to his illegal alien task force.
No.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
And this district attorney is the one telling our county commissioners, you can't do that, you can't do that, you can't do that. Yeah.
So I wanted to put up something. Whitney is on Rumble this morning, and she made a comment quite a while ago that I just hadn't found a way to get into the conversation. But she said, and this was earlier on when we were talking about this, in other circumstances I've seen with solar and wind farms, the first thing companies do is buy off the county commissioners. But I think it's not just the county commissioners. I mean, if you go in and you look at ethics reports for so many legislators, who's on there? Energy. How do you even say that?
Energy.
Yeah. And NextEra. They're all on that. And here's the worst problem. Do you remember several years ago, we started giving these wind turbine companies all of these subsidies, these Oklahoma subsidies, and the petroleum industry got really pissed because they were like, wait a minute, we're out here, we don't get any of these tax subsidies, and yet you're giving them, like water to these wind energy people. How is that happening? And if people don't understand how bad tax incentives are, that's probably the best description of it right there. It's picking winners and losers. Now, who are not supposed to do that? Republicans, right? Because Republicans believe in free enterprise. Yeah. Free enterprise isn't free enterprise when you're picking winners and losers by giving them tax subsidies. And all we need to do is go to Governor Stitt's favorite little, remember Canoe? CANOO, the electric car company that we paid him something like $15 billion or whatever it was. Canoe. The first thing they did is nearly go bankrupt. So they haven't produced what they said they were going to produce. It's an electric car. This stuff doesn't work.
And Bowles said the other day that the Oklahoma wind tax incentives expire in 2026, but they should look at maybe extending them. Right. So
Representative Bowles, just a question for you. So can you explain the difference between free enterprise and what you're doing right now? Just a question. Sandra, can you make me and my That's pretty good. Good one, funny.
Yeah,
that's funny. I wish it weren't funny.
Well, Jenni, I think they just assume from their point of view it is free enterprise. I mean, I think that their view of that is that it's just skewed. That they just muscle it in.
It's free money, right? Free money from the federal government.
Yeah, so I don't, and maybe you're right, Michael. I mean, I can maybe see that perspective.
Well, think about it like this, Jenni. If you're allowed to cheat, you will. Okay. I mean,
don't point that finger at
me. I'll say this. Okay. And I'm not pointing your fingers at you, but if the government or the IRS gives you a tax deduction for your kid, do you take it or do you not take it? Take it.
I mean, that's a good point. Okay? Yeah.
So this is a built-in system. This is a completely built-in system of subsidies from every single thing we do. I mean, that's just, we've been trained and just overloaded. You know, if the government gives us a way to cheat, which, you know, if we take a tax credit, we are doing that. I mean, that's hands down. You're not paying all your tax because you got a kid. You know, I have 5 kids, so you know.
Well, except for the fact, the one argument against it is the fact is that you earned that money and it's yours.
Well,
yes, yeah. Well, yes, I agree 100%. And taxes should be voluntary. The whole thing. I mean, I could go for hours on that. But what I'm saying is, it's not so simple just to say, hey, these guys, you know, we're taking tax incentives. You know, that's a bad deal because we all take them. How we can get them. I mean, that's just how America is now. I mean, we're completely deviated from the free republic that we should be, where what you produce is what you get, not what you just take, not what we consume.
Yes.
Well, and I guess here's the thing, the bottom line that we probably don't talk about enough. We actually do fall for, and conservatives do it, fall for this whole Chamber of Commerce. We're open for business. If we don't have businesses here, then where are your kids going to go? They're going to have to go outside of the state to work. And then, you know, how is that going to? And so many, I don't know if I want to call them conservatives because conservatives don't believe that, but Republicans, people who put R's by their names, will stand on that platform and make a whole campaign around that.
You're right.
You know, and people buy into, well, yeah, I want my kid to be, I don't want my kid to have to move to Colorado to get a job. But the problem is they don't stop and think about a whole bunch of things. So let's start with this. So if the government is subsidizing a business, then that government is going to try to make sure your children are employed in that business.
Yeah.
So that means the subsidies go to OJT on the job training, but we don't even have on the job training anymore. I shouldn't have even said that because we don't even have that. On the job training was paid for by the employer, and the employers were the ones who used to do training of their employers, but that doesn't happen anymore. The state does that. The state pays to train workers for their preferred businesses that come to the state. Like right now, aeronautics, they prefer aeronautics. They're preferring all of this green stuff, which is why they're taking the federal subsidies and then turning around and also giving them Oklahoma subsidies. Parents, I'm going to ask a question. Do you want your child educated in a rounded way so that they're proficient in math, they're proficient in English, they understand science, they understand history? Do you want that? And then they can decide, oh, and I'm going to stick in music and art because those are also very, very important. That makes a well-rounded education. So do you want them to be educated in all 7 of those things and then they can make up their minds about what they want?
Right.
Or do you want a system in which our schools are actively keeping our kids undereducated So the state can bring in businesses that they want because they get kickbacks and all this kind of stuff. It helps the people at the top. The people who have the money make the money on this system. So do you want your kids not proficient, not educated properly in a public school? So then the state can come along and say, but hey, we have this program. Well, so to educate kids for the workforce. And notice that that's what they say. They say we educate kids for the workforce. So parent, your child is being educated for the job the state wants them to have.
Chosen. Mm-hmm.
Is that what you want? Is that a free enterprise system? Is that conservative? Is that Republican? Or is that it's red?
It's communist.
But that's red for communism.
Well, and if I can chime in for just 1 second.
No,
Jenni,
I want to just keep talking.
Well, I just want to chime in on that. Train your child for a job. It's not going. This is kind of a one-sided job data point. The jobs that are in the market now compared to 20 years ago are probably 200% more government-related jobs.
Yes.
Like, I would say probably 30 to 40% of our GDP, our gross domestic product, is all government-related jobs in one way or another. So it's not like these jobs are grassroots, mom and pop. This is corporate government partnership, and you're working for the government ultimately. And that's where all these jobs are going. These jobs are going to the one party, the one provider, the single point payer, big daddy government, the replacement of all of us is going to be the government, period. But that's where all these jobs are going. They're going into the government in one way or another.
Well, right. And I think between the two of us, we need to put this all together and show that you have corporate farms, you have corporate, literally, we've talked about Seaborg Farms over and over again in Guyman, your hometown. We have corporate farms, we have corporate drugs, we have corporate healthcare, we have all of these things. So what the state is doing when they educate your child for the workforce, they're educating your child to go into one or two or three of these things because in a one world government, we only have the businesses that government can control. I'm going to say that again so you can understand it. In a one world government, we don't want little mom and pop businesses. We want businesses that are in cahoots with the government so that they can work in tandem to produce the things that the people with money, BlackRock, Vanguard, Rockefeller, all of these people at the top, that they make money off of. And that's what this is all about. If you think it's about you little people having some kind of liberty or being able to do what you want, you're barking up the wrong tree. Yeah.
So quick question for you two. Have y'all discussed state question 833?
Not yet.
Which one?
Not on the show.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So that points.
The PID districts or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah. No, that's horrible. And we do need to have a show on that. And we were going to talk. Michael and I are going to have to talk after this show about what we're going to do upcoming. So,
well, and I want to chime in with one more thing that you were just saying about the government, Jenni. And this is the root of all of it. So how does the government control all this stuff? They control it through those tax incentives. They control it through those subsidies. That's what people need to understand. That's where they exert their force and their power that's where they pick winners and losers. They're never going to pick your little local guy trying to do the right thing. They're not going to incentivize him to do a better job, to give him more resources, whatever it may be. It's always going to be the big corporate partnership, the government partners. They're the ones that's going to get the subsidies. They're the ones that's going to play ball with the government in one way or another. Yes. So I just want people to realize that's how the government wins. That's how they pick winners and losers, is through that entire process.
Well, so the big money, and one of the things that I point out to people is that the big money is usually in the war machine, right? And right now,
for sure.
we don't have a war right now that they can put the money into. So they created,
they're putting the money into Ukraine. You got to be kidding me.
Except for Ukraine, yes, but they're not producing massive amounts of equipment and airplanes and that. So instead, because we don't have a war, they shifted to green energy, and that's where they're giving the same people the money, but through a different name.
It's infrastructure people in one way or another. It's infrastructure people. But I'll say another thing, NeeAnn. One other thing they are employing, and we saw it with COVID, is fear.
Yes.
Okay. So they put out mass fear in the public, and they pumped in, $3.5 trillion in a matter of months.
Yeah.
They expanded their power in a matter of months and put in $3.5 trillion. That's another component that they've realized is just as powerful as that war and infrastructure side is that fear side too. I mean, I think they proved it. But yes, that the war is a racket. It's always been, and it is the worst.
Well, war is what causes all of this stuff. Economic development will balloon Oklahoma state and local debt with no results. I work with families that get $5,000 per year credit for their job. Plus, they're taking the school choice credit to put their kids in private school. On top of that, employers are getting 5 to 10% of the employee pay from the state. And Robert's right. I mean, we have no idea. Only people like Robert who work in this stuff and see this stuff understand how much the government is taking our money to turn around and redistribute it to other people. And if you were to say that out loud, people would say, we're a red state. That's not true. That's socialism. People, you've been night. Wake up, because it's not true.
Right. So
and that's the one Robert's put in the link to the aerospace industry, which is the other thing, which I think in a way ties into so much of the green stuff and what they're doing too. It's just how much money, Boeing and all the government contractors have always been in aerospace. So this whole aerospace push isn't out of that circle.
And they're too big to fail, Jenny. They're too big to fail. The government is not going to let them go down, no matter how bad a job they do. They're not going to let them go down.
No matter how many astronauts they strand in space,
Oh, yeah. Yeah, boy.
Doesn't matter. And then I saw somebody asked about Skeleton Creek in Logan County.
Yeah.
And one of the things that we have talked about since the beginning of our fight is, hey, this is going to pollute the land. This is going to pollute the water.
Yeah.
And nobody cares. Nobody cares. So.
Well, we all care. But I think the other thing you need to point out too is, and I definitely, because we're at 1:17 and I know you've got to get ready for this thing tomorrow, but one of the things I think that got so many people when you were here with us before and you were explaining about why you guys were against the solar installations, people don't understand the basics. And because we're talking about lithium mining right now and everything is popping up, lithium, we can extract lithium from clay and we need to be getting, and there's all this conspiracy theory about the hurricanes and lithium mines and all this kind of stuff, because you have to have lithium to make the batteries to fuel the green crap. So obviously we have to be doing something about that. But lithium is deadly stuff.
Yes.
It's not stuff that you can it's not like picking up uranium, because we actually do have uranium that is in the crust of the a lot of people who have granite don't realize that they have radioactive materials in granite. That's kind of what granite is. So there's all this stuff out there. But lithium is deadly. To mine it, you breathe the dust in. The dust gets into your lungs. It poisons your system. This is bad juju. America's only gotten away with lithium mining because they do it out of the country where there haven't been any EPA regulations. And you look at those countries and they're decimated. And they have people that are dying by the hundreds because of lithium mining. And
Mhm.
now our Governor Stitt wants to cut out the EPA because we just don't want these crazy regulations so that your kid can go into the workforce in a lithium mine and die mining the crap that's going to fuel the green crap. But here's the thing, NeeAnn, explain what happens with lithium and batteries and solar.
So with our the proposed solar complex in Garfield County, they want to put in 20 acres of lithium battery storage. It's called a battery energy storage system, right? So that's 20 acres of connexes filled with lithium batteries. When they catch on fire, they emit toxic smokes that can kill you. They are carcinogenic, but some of them, hydrogen chloride, I believe, is one of the ones that they used in the concentration camps in Germany that is produced by a lithium battery fire. And so your firemen have to wear oxygen tanks to fight the fire. Your houses have to be evacuated, or your schools have to be evacuated, depending on which way the wind's blowing. The wind was crazy here yesterday. So there's no telling how far it will go. They'll have shelter-in-place orders. They'll close roads. They could close the airport, the Air Force base, depending on which way the wind is blowing. And it takes millions and millions of gallons of water to contain a lithium battery fire. So we have explained this to everybody. And once again, Oklahoma is behind on regulating these systems. These systems should not go in where you don't have a fire hydrant, where you don't have a water source. This is going in the county where we have volunteer firemen. When we brought this up to the company's like, we're not worried about our equipment. You shouldn't be worried about our equipment and the fire. And I looked at him and I'm like, look, I could care less about your dang equipment. We're worried about our firemen dying fighting a fire that your lithium batteries produce. Because when it happens, there's no ifs, ands, or buts. There's only when it happens. Our firemen are going to be the ones that are in danger. And my husband is on the volunteer fire department that will be responsible for these fires.
Well, and I want to say real quick, that says the toxic smoke. So let's just define that. A large majority of the toxins in that smoke are those PFASs, which are the forever chemicals, which never leave. You get those in your body, you're literally going to get cancer. You can't eliminate those things.
Well, and my understanding is that, and here's the deal. We have asked.
Wait, hold on 1 second.
Yes.
Governor Hochul.
Yes.
I urge all members of the local community to follow public health guidance to protect themselves and their families and avoid exposure to smoke or other toxins.
Because those people are educated on how to do that, right? So here's the deal. What was I going to say? I can't remember.
You can't make this stuff up.
No, you just really can't. And so, but our firemen will not have the equipment. These firemen in this New York fire, and we have a video on our website about California fires and New York fires. They had to wear a breathing apparatus the entire time they fought this fire. So we have a fireman that came and talked to us, and he said that in like 90-degree weather, if our firemen were fighting this fire, an oxygen tank would last 5 to 10 minutes, and then they would have to switch out oxygen tanks.
And this is a volunteer?
Yes.
And those tanks are like $1,500 a piece, I think, aren't they?
Yeah. I have no idea, but it would take, I don't know how many. So one of the fires in California lasted over 12 days. They estimate that they used over 20 million gallons of water.
Okay. And let's make this point. That's water that's not going on farmland.
Well, that's water we don't have. We don't have hydrants. We don't have a river. We don't have access.
No, they're going to pull it out of you're under the Ogallala, right? You're on top of the Ogallala.
I think.
The aquifer. Yeah, they'll just drill down and pull it out of there. And then so it'll take, a decade for it to percolate back down, all that water to percolate back down through the soil into the aquifer.
Right.
Or however long it takes. I don't know what the recharge rate is of the Ogallala Law. I'd have to go look. But the point of the matter is that's not going on farmland. And I think it's interesting. There are more than 5,000 solar farms. This is according to this article last year in July. There are more than 5,000 solar farms across the U.S., according to the U.S. Energy Information Administration. In 2022, they produced 3.4% of the nation's electricity.
Right.
So there you go. We're doing this for 3.4%.
It's totally worth it. Yeah.
Well, and I want to show real quick. Here's NextEra's website. So you can see they got this beautiful American flag right here in the middle of the picture. It's the greatest thing ever. I thought it was pretty funny. Like I can't really show it on here, but if you zoom into this, you can literally see like everywhere where there's trees cleared here, that's solar panels all the way back, literally. Yeah. But what I think is kind of interesting here, NeeAnn, is this number here. They've got planned by the end of 2025. So, they have probably, I don't know, maybe $10 billion in assets. I think you said, or $8 billion, whatever it was. Yeah. They've got $85 to $95 billion planned in American investments in infrastructure through 2025. So they got 10x. They've got 10x that's on the books, ready to go through the end of next year. And then when we look at like the subsidies, this would be the first thing like that would just blow my mind. You come down here, so they've returned 651% to their shareholders. That's 6.5 times your money invested. So a company like that, do they really need subsidies? I mean, I think that they're probably, if they were independent financially, they could probably operate just fine. They wouldn't be making 651% for their shareholders, which I already said, I looked at their financials. 65% of those shareholders are large institutions.
Yeah.
So that's how this cycle goes. The government literally gives these guys money. They return 6.5 times their money back to them over the lifetime of their investment here. This is what it's all about right here.
It's
right
money
there.
laundering.
Yeah, it is.
Money laundering here, right there.
And they brag that they paid $21 million in ad valorem taxes.
$21 million. Oh my gosh.
$21 million in the year 2023. And they brag about that.
And I think it's so interesting. Next Wednesday, there's another interim study. Let's make sure we cover that, NeeAnn. Would you tell us what that is?
Yes. So Representative Dobrinsky and Representative Bowles. Let me make sure. Well, I guess it's just Representative Dobrinsky is holding an interim study Wednesday the 30th from 9:30 to 11:30. And it's in State Capitol Building Room 206. And the name is Balancing Solar in Oklahoma's All of the Above Energy Plan. So I will be speaking. McQueen and Mason from the Oklahoma Department of Energy. Let's see. Grid asset utilization from the Southwest Power Pool. Myself, Josh Richardson from Private Land Wildlife Supervisor of the Oklahoma Department of Wildlife, which is great because I'd love to have discussions with him.
Don't forget the Conservation Commission is tasked with permitting carbon capture sites. Because that makes all the damn sense in the world.
Right. Advanced Power Alliance will be there, and then question and answer. So those are the people that will be presenting on Wednesday.
So please, if you can't come, tune in. Yeah. If you just go to the Oklahoma Legislature website, you can actually find where these studies are, and you can tune in and watch them if you can't come. But really, you have to tune into these. And I want to address something quickly. So NeeAnn, you said all of the above energy plan. Okay, here's where this comes from. This is Governor Stitt's own plan. And this is what he says. So I don't know if anybody will be able to hear this or not, but let me see.
Right here in Shiloh, Oklahoma. And I'm grateful to you all for the hard work and vision you've shown in seeing this through. And we're honored to have you in Oklahoma. Oklahoma has some of the most affordable and reliable electricity anywhere. We have a real energy advantage. And it's because we believe in a more of everything approach to energy. We have a thriving oil and...
What did he just say? What did he just say? Because we believe in a more of everything approach to energy. He not only said that, but he also said and this has been published numerous times, we already produce way more than enough energy that we need in Oklahoma. Why are we having to have wind and solar and all of this? We don't need it for us.
No, it's not for us.
So why are we going to make it and ship it to the east through this giant 18-mile wide, 60-mile long, or however 160-mile long electrical corridor? Why?
But the other thing, Jenni, that they talked about in that interim study on Wednesday was these data centers. Did you notice that every one of the speakers referenced data centers? My question is what is the purpose of these data centers? What are they doing? Is it Bitcoin mining, or are they mining information? I mean, who's running these data centers? But every one of the presenters the other day spoke about the increased amount of energy that it takes to run data centers. And we know that there's a data center going in Stillwater that's already on the books.
Well, is it AI? Are they talking about AI? Because AI.
I can shed some light because we have multiple investments in the beginning of the infrastructure of these data centers going back to, I don't know, probably 8 or 9 years ago. But the majority of these data centers that I know of that we invest in, it's basically going to be a node to bring in the above 5G technology, the speed, the instantaneous communication speed for kind of autonomy. So things can, like self-driving cars, things like that. They have to be able to communicate with the surroundings in an instantaneous manner. Otherwise they won't work. So a lot of these data centers have the technology, or they're building the infrastructure. Think about it like this. In order to have a society to where we can depend more on AI, we can depend more on robots, we can kind of shift the workforce and the loads from humans to technology, you have to have the infrastructure to support that. So think of these data centers in the fact of, like, cell phone towers allow us to have instantaneous communications everywhere, in the country, no matter where you are. Used to, you'd have bad service, you'd get drop calls, things like that. That was 10, 20 years ago. Now,
unless you live in the country.
Yeah, unless you live in the country. But now, no matter where you are, you have instantaneous, data. You can watch videos. You can do all this stuff that, you were never able to do. The data centers are going to bring that in on the back of more of the total processing power needed to really fuel the next generation of technology and robots and things like that. That's really what's going to come from those. It's a new infrastructure for, because you have to, well, I don't want to get into the weeds, but like right now, we're still built on like Web 2.0, where, like Web 1 was like a modem direct, like you'd have to dial into someone else's computer. And, now you got 2.0 with switching centers, and it's just the basic internet we know of. The internet is going to change on the back of infrastructure that's coming in with all these data centers. These data centers are going to be literally everywhere, but it's going to allow a completely different infrastructure to manage all the information that's out there, but it's instantaneous. That's the whole point of them, is it's instantaneous data
that
transfer.
sounds so scary, Michael. But
well, and what? But
the
look,
reason.
we've got Real ID that our legislators have, again, not protecting our liberty, but hooking us into the system. Real ID, facial recognition, all of this stuff. It has to go someplace, and it goes to these big data centers because what they want to do, just like Denise says, is they want to give us a social credit score. And don't tell me that doesn't happen, because I've already shown in this carbon capture stuff, a lot of it is related to, if you're going to sell back your carbon credits, you have to have the correct DEI score.
Yes.
And if you don't have the right DEI score, you can't participate and get your money back for this. So if you don't think that this isn't going to happen, again, pull your head out of the sand, because you're so wrong. That's what all this data and these infrastructures and this need for this electricity is. It is what you know Michael's saying too, because we just don't have long range ability to control those things. And that's why you have to have a whole bunch of them in different areas. But it's also to shuttle information about citizens and their movements and what they're buying at the grocery store and what they're saying on the internet and what they're thinking.
Well, yeah, you have to have the bandwidth to be able to surveil. That ultimately, you know, if you want to go into the conspiracy side of it, the only way that they can surveil us is to have the bandwidth to process all that at the same, you know, pretty much instantaneous. You know, they can't record NeeAnn what she's doing and then 2 weeks later upload it to a computer. It's never going to work. You have to be able to take what is happening right now and get it into the system to be categorized and archived and, you know, used for whatever. So they're building a new infrastructure. They need new equipment. They cannot do this on the old equipment that's in, like, when you watch a video on Netflix, it has to route through a very certain particular, you know, set of equipment to get to your house. All that's going to go away. It's going to be, it's going to be like an edge, you know, an edge cloud where you have all this processing all over the place. You don't have it just in the main backbone of the internet anymore. Now it's all over the place.
See, I am so behind. This is where I tell you that I'm not trendy, because I don't. I mean, they're talking about data centers, but I'm just like, okay, yeah, they need data centers. Well, that's where they need all of this electricity to go.
You realize that several weeks ago, Skynet became human. It was the anniversary of Skynet becoming human. If you don't know what I'm talking about, look up Skynet. How the Terminator started. And if you don't think we're going down the road to Terminator, you look at what's going on, because Michael, you just said we have to cut people out of this equation. It all has to be done by robots and everything else. Isn't that what Terminator was? Yeah. So when they tell you they're preparing your kids for workforce, it's a workforce to work your kids out of the workforce. That's what it is.
Right, exactly. And they want to cover our ag with everything that they can, so our children will never go into ag and be able to grow their own food.
Yeah, because you can't control a population if you don't have access to their energy and to their food. It doesn't even really matter other stuff. I mean, because water, people can actually just go down to rivers and creeks, you know, and get what it's not even water. It's food and energy. And those who control that control you.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Oh my gosh. And by the way, Michael, people who invest in this are the ones that are causing it.
Yeah, that's just not.
I'm just saying, Michael. People who are investing in it are creating a problem.
I wasn't going to say it, but
it's the same thing, Jenny. It's the same thing as when I told you when we looked at the cricket farms, 8 years ago, 9 years ago, where we looked at, that was a small group out of Austin, Texas, that created that whole process to replace that protein with cricket protein.
No,
they went out.
Michael, I can remove you from this podcast. You realize.
Well, we didn't invest. I'm telling you, we didn't invest in that. That was not something that we did. We didn't like anything about it, but
No, that
and
is
did as
hilarious.
hell in 2001: A Space Odyssey. Although I fell asleep in the first 20 minutes, it was so
I
slow.
know, right? Yeah, I don't think I ever watched the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what I tell my kids, and then I got to go. You know, in today's time, I try to teach my kids to derive their happiness and their being from their spiritual relationship, not from technology. I don't want them to get excited and happy and you know, they live for watching videos or whatever it may be. I want my kids to be a fulfilled human because of who they are spiritually. And I think, you know, as this you know, thing swings over towards technology, you know, we're losing that spiritual connection, you know, maybe not with us, but like with these younger kids, that's all they do is they get all of their input from, you know, they're just little input, you know, receivers. They get everything given to them, you know, through technology, through a screen. It just breaks my heart to see that that's how we as humans are, you know, living our lives going forward. We're just total consumers. I just hate that.
Yeah. I mean, there's nothing, and we're creating our own hell.
Yeah. Yeah, we are.
I mean, but until you have people who are willing to get out of that, you know, we are where we are. So this is where the remnant comes into play, and we can have an entire podcast just about that alone. Exactly. But those of us who are called to wake people up and provide information because God has said, my people perish for lack of knowledge, then those of us were stuck doing this.
And we have to band together. We have to band together statewide. This is going to take everybody in every county just banding together to save our state for what we want our state to look like in the future.
Right. And if you're interested, on Facebook, there is the Save Oklahoma Farms and Ranches Facebook page, and that's kind of become a landing spot for people who want to get interested in this kind of thing and have access to Facebook, and then they kind of tend to find their places in the counties and what everybody else is fighting. So if you want to go to Save Our Farms and Ranches, Save Oklahoma, I'm sorry, Sandra. Save Oklahoma Farms and Ranches on Facebook. That's a good landing spot to start. And then from there, you know, we can get you plugged into different communities where you can help. And we'll have a new Facebook page. I mean, we'll have a new website coming pretty soon called Liberty Oklahoma that's going to have a lot of this stuff on it available for people to be able to get to, because we can't trust Facebook, and that's not where we need to be. So we need to develop some independent systems to get off of that, where we can communicate and know what's going on. Also, don't forget, go to rope2.org. You see it down at the bottom of the screen and on Michael's and my address. And we've got all kinds of information there. Go to our YouTube and Rumble channels. And don't forget, guys, like and share. And I never say it enough on this podcast because I'm not into that kind of stuff and I forget about it. But if you guys don't go to our Rumble channels and YouTube channels and watch that stuff and share it and like and comment, we don't get up on any of the algorithms, and the people that we're trying to reach can't see us. So it's incumbent upon you guys who are watching to like, share, and comment and get this content out to your friends and your family and people that you know that are interested in this, so that we can actually come next February, park ourselves up at the Capitol on a continuous basis to try to make sure these people understand we're not going away, and we have unelected some of your favorite people, and we will do that to you if necessary. So please do that. Is there anything that you've got, NeeAnn, before we get off of here today?
I think that's it. Come to our fundraiser in Enid tomorrow night if you get a chance to. Look at our videos on our websites, and if you're willing to help with the fight, we have a contribute button also.
Awesome. All right. Well, Michael, you and I are going to have to get together on next week's shows because we've lost a guest. So we'll need to talk about that. So we don't know who's going to be on next week. So it'll be exciting. So you'll need to tune in to figure out, because you know it'll be somebody good, or Michael and I will sit there and gripe the whole time, which you also know is pretty good. So don't forget to tune in next Wednesday and Friday at 9 a.m. on all of the regular channels. And thanks for tuning in with us today. We really appreciate it. Like, share, and comment. And we'll see you again next Wednesday. Have a blessed weekend.